In today's video, we'll be talking about a dynamic drishti gaze. The term drishti gaze is often used to refer to a focal point that is held when holding a pose in stillness. In particular, it's used in balance poses where we find a focal point to get us centered and focused so that we can stay upright. In Ashtanga yoga, people who study that tradition learn about 9 different drishti points that they hold depending on the pose that they're in. So for example, if they're in triangle pose or trikonasana, the gaze is up to the hand. If they are in a seated forward fold, then the gaze is at the big toes. We can also think of holding a drishti gaze as we move dynamically and flow through poses. Many musicians like to find a focal point before they begin a performance to help get them centered and to hold their attention as they move into performance. But it can also be really useful to think about keeping a soft gaze when moving through different postures or movement patterns as we perform. So in this series, we'll be talking about keeping a gaze that is central, smooth, and follows an arc so that we hold our attention in that way. Attention is really our greatest commodity, and people are visual. So we are surrounded by visual stimuli everywhere we go. And that's one of the reasons that the monkey mind tends to dominate in a lot of us, where we're jumping from one idea to the next in our mind. So what we look at is what we pay attention to. So if we're able to find a central point to gaze at, this really helps us to gain that one-pointed attention. So we'll begin first with a simple arm flow in mountain pose. Begin to find your mountain pose stance or tadasana by rocking a couple of times back and forth between the ball and the heel of the foot, and then begin to center your weight evenly over the big toe mound, the pinky toe mound, and the heel of the foot, over that triangle of the feet. From there, we root and ground evenly into the earth, and then we lift energy out of the earth and we rise up from there, drawing our shoulders up and then behind our back. So if you could imagine that you have back pockets, you could think about drawing your left shoulder blade into your right back pocket and your right shoulder blade into your left back pocket. This flattens the shoulder blades, and then we can also allow the palms to face forward to assist in that flattening before letting the palms come to a more natural position by the sides. From here, we'll go ahead and inhale the arms overhead. Look up at your hands as you do that and notice the lift of the chin. Then flow the arms back down to lower them by your sides as your gaze moves down toward the floor and the chin tucks toward the chest. We inhale, we follow a smooth line with our gaze up to our hands, and then we follow that smooth line as our hands come down by our sides and our gaze moves down close to our big toes to the floor. One more time, lifting our gaze up to our fingertips at the top, and then following that gaze nice and smooth, a central line all the way down to our big toes on the floor. Now I'll go ahead and, keeping a slight bend in the knees, raise the arms overhead once more following that gaze, and then draw the hands together into prayer position in front of the heart. Keeping the hips pointing forward, we'll inhale to lift, and then we'll exhale as we twist over to the left, keeping the thumbs to the sternum and looking over to the left. Inhale back to center, and then exhale as you twist to the opposite side, looking over your right shoulder this time. Now think about that smooth gaze. So inhaling to center, find that center point of gaze, and then follow that gaze over to the left as you look over your left shoulder, back to center, keeping the thumbs into the sternum, and then over to the right, following that smooth gaze with slightly bent knees, looking over your right shoulder, and then back towards center. Now we're going to raise the arms straight overhead, swan dive down into a forward fold. So this time our gaze follows all the way down and comes between our calves. So the gaze comes between the legs in our forward fold. We're going to lift the gaze to come into a half lift. We press into our thighs with our hands, and we locate a central axis of energy from our hips between our feet, and we make a flat tabletop tucking our shoulder blades down behind our back. Here our gaze is just under the tip of our nose, a couple of feet in front of our toes. We exhale and we lower back into the forward fold, and let's find that half lift one more time. So the gaze moves smoothly and evenly, a couple of feet in front of our toes. Flatten the shoulder blades, make a tabletop, draw on the belly button toward the spine, and then exhale to the forward fold with the gaze between the calves. With a bend in your knees, inhale the arms all the way back overhead, looking up at your hands, and then take the hands back to prayer position in front of the heart, looking forward. Now we're going to go ahead and move into another twist. We'll begin by taking the arm straight out in front of us with the palms pressed together, and we're twisting over to the left, drawing our left arm behind us like we were pulling a bow, and then straightening out behind us and looking toward our left hand. Keeping that arm straight, draw that hand forward to press into the right hand, and then twist in the opposite direction, pulling that right hand back, opening and extending it out behind you, looking at your fingertips, and then keeping it extended, draw them together in front of you one more time. We'll do that once more, thinking again about the gaze, keeping the hips square to the front. Follow that gaze, maybe even looking at your fingertips as you straighten out the arm, then following that gaze to the front of the room, and then bending your arm, following the gaze with your fingertips, and then following the gaze back to the center of the room. We're going to go ahead and inhale one more time back to our extended mountain pose, and then swan dive into our forward fold. From here, we're going to bend the knees, keeping the torso close to the thighs, and raising the hands into prayer position. So keeping the navel drawn inward, tucking the tailbone slightly. We'll inhale to lift here, and then exhale as we twist over to the left, keeping the hands pressed together in prayer position. Inhale back towards center, and then exhale to the opposite side. Our weight is in our heels. We could even lift our toes off the ground. And as we twist, we're watching to make sure one knee doesn't come in front of the other. And we're also thinking about that gaze. So inhale to center, find that smooth gaze as you follow it over to the right and back towards center. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and lift back up into mountain, raise the left knee, and then take it out behind you into crescent lunge. We'll rise up into crescent lunge, keeping the front knee stacked over the ankle. And we're going to be moving into a revolved version of this lunge. So if you feel unbalanced doing that, you're welcome to take that back foot down about a 45-degree angle from your front foot into warrior one instead of crescent lunge. So in crescent lunge, the heel is lifted. We inhale and lift the arms overhead, looking up at them. Exhale to prayer position as we look over to the right, following the gaze. Inhale back to center, keeping the hands pressed together, and then look over to the left as we twist in that direction. One more cycle here. Inhale to center, exhale to twist. Inhale to center, and then exhale to twist the opposite direction, keeping that steady, soft, focused gaze. Take the hands to the floor, and we're going to go ahead and step that right foot back into plank. So find our focal point in plank. It's just a few inches in front of our hands on the floor. Take an inhale there, and as you exhale, lift the hips up to the sky. Here we're in downward facing dog, and our gaze is just like in the forward fold between our calves. From here, we'll go ahead and lift the left leg overhead, draw it forward, and then we're going to go ahead and take that right foot down to a 45-degree angle, windmill open to the right side of the room into warrior two, extend that front leg on an inhale, exhale to draw forward over that front leg, take an inhale to keep an open chest, and an exhale as you take your left arm down to that left leg. Looking up at your right hand, we're going to inhale here and exhale as we lift the left arm overhead, looking up at it. So the gaze, as we move into triangle pose, moves to our right hand overhead. And as we move into reverse triangle, the gaze moves over to our left hand. We're going to go ahead and bend that front knee, take the hands to frame the foot, and then step that back leg forward into forward fold. Bending the knees, inhale, arms overhead, and then exhale them back to prayer position in front of the heart. We'll move through that cycle on the opposite side. So inhale, look up at your hands. Exhale, follow a smooth gaze down a central axis so it comes between your legs. Now inhale, bend your knees coming into chair, drawing the hands together in front of the heart. Inhale to lift and lengthen the spine. Exhale to twist over to the left as you look in that direction. Inhale to center and exhale to twist to the right, looking in that direction. One more time, thinking about keeping your knees even. Inhale to center and then exhale to look over the left shoulder. Inhale back to center. We're going to come to mountain and lift the right leg, take it out behind us into either crescent lunge or warrior one. Lift and lengthen, and then take the hands to prayer position as you twist over to the left, back to center, and to the right. Back to center, to the left, to center, and to the right. Back to center. Now we'll take those hands back, step the left foot back to plank, find your focal point in plank, lift the hips on an inhale into down dog, find that focal point, and then this time lift the right leg, step it forward between the hands, take that back foot flat on the floor, rise up into warrior two, straighten that front leg, inhale, lift and lengthen, exhale, draw forward over that front leg, take another inhale, and exhale to take your right hand down to the leg, looking up at your left hand. Look up on the inhale, exhale to move into reverse triangle, looking at your right hand. Inhale to triangle, looking over to your left, and then exhale to look to your right. Now go ahead and bend that front knee, take the hands to the floor, step that back foot up to meet your right foot into forward fold. We'll bend our knees and we'll raise our arms all the way up to the sky, looking up at our hands, and then taking into prayer position in front of the heart. Last, we'll work through some sun salutations or Surya Namaskar. So here we've already talked about the focal points for each of those poses. So we'll just continue to work on keeping a steady, focused gaze as we move through these different postures. So we'll come to mountain pose again. We'll inhale the arms overhead, looking up at the fingertips. Exhale into our forward fold, following that steady gaze to come between our legs. Inhale to a half lift, looking a couple of feet in front of your toes on the floor. Exhale to forward fold, looking between your hands. Step back with your left foot and then your right into plank, looking a couple of inches in front of your hands. Inhale to down dog, looking between your legs. And then step or hop forward to forward fold, looking between your legs. Inhale to a half lift, looking at the floor. Exhale back to your forward fold. Bend your knees and rise up into Urdhva Hastasana, upward salute, and back to prayer position. We'll do that one more time on the opposite side. So grounding into your feet, lift the arms overhead, looking up at your hands. Exhale as you swan dive down, keeping that gaze steady, looking between your legs. Inhale to a half lift, looking a few feet in front of your toes. Exhale to forward fold, step your right foot and then your left back into plank. Gaze is a few inches in front of your hands. Exhale to downward facing dog, looking between your legs. Now step or hop forward to forward fold, Uttanasana, looking between your legs. Inhale to half lift, making a tabletop. Exhale to forward fold, and then inhale as you bend your knees, raising your arms all the way up to the sky, looking up at your hands, and then drawing the hands in front of the heart into prayer position. I hope that this gave you some ideas to use for keeping a steady, focused gaze as you move through different types of poses or different types of movement patterns or physical postures while you're at your instrument as well. Thank you so much for watching.